They say every empire is strongest the moment before it begins to rot. A king sits on his throne, armies loyal, gold overflowing, enemies defeated. He believes he has found security, that his crown rests on unshakable ground. But history shows the opposite. It is always at this exact moment of comfort that betrayal strikes. Julius Caesar thought loyalty was eternal until daggers flashed in the Senate. Powerful rulers throughout history trusted too much in love, in family, in friendship, only to be destroyed by the very people they believed would protect them. Machiavelli understood this paradox. The moment a ruler believed himself safe, he was already lost. Power does not vanish in a sudden blow. It decays the instant a man relaxes into certainty. And in the modern world, men repeat the same fatal error. They are not emperors or generals, yet they place their crowns in the hands of another illusion, the belief in the one. A single woman, they imagine, will complete them, protect them, and make life secure. They call her destiny, soulmate, perfect partner. But beneath the poetry, this belief functions as the same trap that toppled kings. It creates predictability, weakness, and dependence. Think of it carefully. A man convinced he has found the one begins to soften. He stops anticipating betrayal. He stops sharpening his edge. He believes he has arrived at safety. And just like the ruler lulled into complacency, he becomes vulnerable at the exact moment he feels strongest. The illusion blinds him to reality. People change, loyalty shifts, circumstances turn. What was once a promise of forever can transform into the very weapon that destroys him. This is the paradox. The instant you believe you've secured happiness through another person, you've already lost control of your own fate. Machiavelli would call it surrender, trading sovereignty for comfort, vigilance for fantasy. History shows what happens to rulers who make this trade. And men today, convinced by the lie of the one, repeat the same story on a smaller scale. Careers abandoned, ambition dulled, dreams sacrificed, all in the name of a safety that never truly existed. The crown does not fall when the enemy storms the gate. It falls the moment you hand it away smiling to the one you thought would never betray you. Why do men cling so desperately to the idea of the one? It is not because they are rational, it is because they are afraid. Beneath the surface, most men crave completion. They long for a woman who will silence their insecurities, soothe their loneliness, and grant them the illusion of permanent safety. The myth of the one offers exactly that, a final destination where the struggle ends, where he can finally rest. But Machiavelli would laugh at such a notion. Safety is never final. The moment you declare yourself safe, you place the knife in someone else's hand. The hunger for forever security is a symptom of weakness, not strength. Men are taught from childhood to believe the fairy tale, that life culminates in finding a partner who makes everything whole. But the truth is harsher. This very belief makes them vulnerable. When a man believes he is complete, he lets down his guard. He no longer expects betrayal, no longer plans for the unexpected. He begins to confuse comfort with control, affection with loyalty. In doing so, he becomes soft clay in the hands of whoever holds his heart. Consider how rulers once thought they could secure their thrones through marriage. Kings would bind themselves to queens in hopes of eternal alliances. Yet those very unions often led to downfall, alliances broken, kingdoms betrayed,
heirs turning against fathers. Safety sought in love became the spark of ruin. Modern men walk into the same fire, only now the battlefield is not kingdoms, but careers, ambitions, and futures. Believing a woman is forever, they tether their fate to her decisions, her moods, her shifting desires. The danger lies in predictability. Once a man believes he has locked in safety, his moves become obvious. He sacrifices risk for routine, independence for stability, vigilance for comfort. What he calls forever love is, in truth, the surrender of his sovereignty. And the irony is brutal. The very thing he clings to for protection is what ensures his downfall. He will be tested not in times of loneliness, but in the moment he believes he has finally secured happiness. That is when he is most blind, most vulnerable, most easily undone. Machiavelli's lesson is clear. The illusion of safety is the most dangerous illusion of all, and nowhere is it sold more seductively than in the promise of the one.
Machiavelli never trusted appearances. He warned that the downfall of rulers was not their enemies, but their blindness to the reality behind smiles, vows, and promises. Appearances, he said, exist to be manipulated. The prince who forgets this truth becomes prey. And so it is with men who believe in the one. They mistake appearances, affection, devotion, even the words forever, for reality. But reality is harsher. Loyalty lasts only as long as it serves the interests of the one who gives it. When circumstances shift, so does devotion. In The Prince, Machiavelli insisted that rulers must always prepare for betrayal, even from their closest allies. He wrote that men are ungrateful, fickle, liars, and deceivers. Not because they are evil, but because self-interest is stronger than love. To expect otherwise is to live in fantasy. A ruler who forgets this, who relies on loyalty or affection to guarantee safety, has already sealed his fate. The same principle applies to the modern man. When he convinces himself that a woman is the one, he stops expecting betrayal. He mistakes temporary devotion for permanent truth, and in doing so, hands away his power. History is full of rulers who ignored Machiavelli's warning. Richard II trusted the loyalty of his nobles, only to be dethroned by them. Roman emperors secured marriages to stabilize power, yet those unions became the very channels of their assassination. The pattern repeats: trust in appearances, fall to reality. Men today follow the same script, only the throne they lose is their own sovereignty. They believe that finding the one ends the struggle, when in fact it begins a new one in which they are no longer sovereign actors but dependent subjects. Machiavelli's wisdom cuts deep because it does not flatter. It does not promise safety, only strategy. He would say, never stop expecting betrayal, never stop calculating risk, never believe appearances are more than masks. To believe in the one is to violate all three principles. It is to blind yourself willingly, to trade vigilance for comfort. And once you do, your fate no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the illusion you chose to serve. The truth is simple. Appearances deceive. Loyalty shifts. Love fades. The man who forgets this loses everything. The man who remembers it stays free. A man is most dangerous when he is hungry. Hunger sharpens him, drives him, keeps him awake at night plotting his rise. But the moment he convinces himself he has arrived, his edge begins to dull. This is the tragedy of men who think they've found the one. Believing they've secured safety, they also believe they've reached completion. The struggle is over, the mission is done. And in that false victory, they lose the very fire that once made them powerful. Machiavelli observed that rulers who grew comfortable invited their own ruin.
The prince who stopped expanding, who stopped fearing, who stopped pushing, was already dead, even if the crown still sat on his head. Power is maintained not by comfort, but by constant vigilance and relentless motion. Modern men forget this. They believe a relationship is the final reward of all effort. Once they've secured love, they let go of ambition. They trade building for maintaining, conquest for routine. And with every year of this quiet surrender, their strength withers. Look around and you'll see it everywhere. Men who once dreamed of greatness now spend their days appeasing, compromising, shrinking. The drive that once pushed them toward mastery is redirected into sustaining peace at home. Careers stall, ambitions fade. They convince themselves this is maturity, when in truth, it is decay. They are no longer men on a mission. They are men orbiting another person with no orbit of their own. The lie of the one sells not only safety, but also completion. It whispers, you no longer need to fight. You no longer need to chase. You have found the end of the road. But for a man, there is no end of the road. The moment he accepts completion, he begins to rot. The mission is not something to be surrendered for comfort. The mission is what keeps him alive. Without it, he becomes a shadow of the man he once was. Machiavelli would see it clearly. A ruler who stops hungering for more loses not only his ambition, but also the respect of those around him. And the man who surrenders his hunger for the illusion of love suffers the same fate. The world no longer fears him, it no longer respects him, it no longer follows him, because he no longer leads himself.
Power does not crumble because of strength. It crumbles because of predictability. The moment your enemies can calculate your next move, they own you. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must be like both the lion and the fox. Unpredictable, cunning, always forcing others to guess. Once a man ties himself to the one, he loses this edge completely. Every decision, every move, every sacrifice is now predictable. His life begins to orbit a single point, and anyone who knows that point can manipulate him without resistance. Think of how easy it becomes to pressure such a man. Threaten his relationship, and you can bend his will. Question his loyalty to her, and you can shame him into submission. He becomes a man of routine, a man whose priorities are already written out in advance. His enemies do not need to fight him. They only need to pull the strings of what he loves most. And the more he convinces himself that the one is his foundation, the easier it becomes for others to shake that foundation beneath his feet. History proves it. Generals undone because their enemies captured their wives or children. Leaders who compromised their empires because their hearts could be blackmailed. Predictable attachments become weapons in the hands of rivals. The modern man may not rule a kingdom, but his fate is no different. His boss knows he will accept less pay because he can't risk the marriage. The court knows he will give away half his wealth because family comes first. Society knows he will stay in line because he fears losing her approval. Predictability enslaves him long before betrayal arrives. Machiavelli warned rulers never to be ruled by love or fear of loss because it makes them transparent. The man who builds his identity around the one reveals his greatest weakness. He is no longer a strategist. He is a hostage of his own devotion. And when a man becomes predictable, his power is not merely diminished, it is gone. The harsh truth is this: unpredictability is power. Predictability is weakness. The man who clings to the one writes his own script, hands it to the world, and watches as others use it against him.
Every illusion carries a price. For the man who believes in the one, that price is devastating. At first, it seems invisible: comfort, companionship, stability. But slowly, the true cost emerges, and it is always higher than he imagined. Divorce courts filled with broken men prove it. Careers abandoned, fortunes divided, years wasted in the service of a fantasy. The promise of forever often ends with a man standing alone, stripped of everything he once built. Machiavelli would have called this predictable. When a ruler ties his fortune to loyalty, he makes his survival dependent on something fragile. When that loyalty breaks, as it always does, ruin follows. Modern men face the same outcome, but instead of thrones and empires, it is their bank accounts, reputations, and futures that collapse. Half of marriages end in divorce. Of those that remain, countless men live in silent defeat, trading ambition for peace, their lives dictated by fear of losing what they should never have surrendered in the first place. The economic cost is brutal, but the psychological cost is worse. A man who loses his mission for the one wakes up years later realizing he has wasted the most precious currency he had: time. Time spent appeasing, negotiating, suppressing his hunger. Time that could have been used to build, to conquer, to create. And when the illusion shatters, he cannot recover it. A kingdom can be rebuilt after war, but wasted years never return. The system knows this. Governments, courts, and social structures profit from men who believe in the myth of the one. Laws are designed to strip them of resources once they commit. Entire industries thrive on their predictability. The myth is not just romantic, it is profitable. And every man who buys into it becomes another pawn on the board, another asset to be exploited. This is the hidden price. Not just money, not just time, but sovereignty itself. The man who believes in the one has already accepted the terms of his defeat. He is not a strategist. He is not a ruler. He is a servant of an illusion, and he pays for that service with everything he has.
If believing in the one is the trap, then what is the alternative? Machiavelli would not say to reject love entirely, but to master it strategically. A wise ruler does not deny alliances. He uses them, without ever forgetting they can turn against him. In the same way, a man may love, but he must never surrender sovereignty. He may commit, but never to the illusion of permanence. He may give affection, but never his crown. The Machiavellian man keeps his mission above all else. His woman may walk beside him, but she does not define him. His ambition is not negotiable. His hunger is not silenced. His vigilance never fades. He does not confuse comfort with control. He does not mistake devotion for permanence. He knows that loyalty lasts only as long as it serves mutual interests, and he accepts this without bitterness. By doing so, he protects himself from the very illusion that enslaves other men. Consider the difference. The man who believes in the one builds his life around her. The Machiavellian man builds his life around his mission, and if she fits into it, she walks with him. If she does not, he continues without hesitation. This makes him unpredictable, unshakable, untouchable. He is not hostage to a single relationship, nor is he ruined if it ends. He remains sovereign, no matter who stays or leaves. This is not cold detachment, it is strategic clarity. A ruler cannot afford to tie his fate to any single ally. Neither can a man afford to tie his identity to a single woman. By refusing the myth of the one, he gains freedom. By keeping his sovereignty, he retains power. And with that power, he can build a life that no betrayal, no illusion, no shifting loyalty can take from him. The strategic alternative is simple. Never surrender your crown. Love if you must. Enjoy companionship if it serves your path, but never let it replace the mission. Never trade sovereignty for the promise of safety. Because the man who refuses to be enslaved by illusions cannot be controlled. And that is the kind of man Machiavelli feared and respected.
So now the question comes to you directly. Do you still believe in the one? Do you still cling to the idea that safety, permanence, and completion can be handed to you by another person? Or do you see the trap clearly, the same trap that toppled kings, weakened generals, and destroys modern men every day? This is not philosophy in the abstract. This is a mirror, and the reflection staring back at you is a choice: sovereignty or surrender. Machiavelli's warning echoes through history. The moment you believe you are safe is the moment you are most vulnerable. For men, that moment often arrives the second they whisper, "I've found her. She's the one." They do not realize that those words signal the beginning of their decline. Their hunger fades, their vigilance dulls, and their power slips quietly from their hands. They think they've won. In truth, they've already begun to lose. If you want to remain sovereign, you must accept a hard truth. There is no one. There are women you may love, women you may walk beside, but never one who defines you, completes you, or secures you forever. The only permanence is your mission. The only safety is your vigilance. The only crown worth wearing is the one you never hand away. Look at history. Look at modern men. Look at yourself. How many have fallen because they confused love with loyalty, safety with control, permanence with truth? How many surrendered their ambition for the illusion of completion? And now, how many still live in silent defeat, pretending they have not already paid the price? The challenge is simple. You either live as a man of illusions, predictable, dependent, and weak, or as a Machiavellian man, sovereign, strategic, and untouchable. Love if you choose, but never worship. Commit if you must, but never surrender. And above all, never confuse the crown on your head with the comfort of an embrace. The final truth is this: the moment you think you found the one, you've already begun to lose power. The only man who never loses is the one who never surrenders sovereignty to illusions. That is the man the world cannot control. That is the man Machiavelli would call free.